evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. So I got delayed a little bit. Okay. So we'll continue our discussion. Just let me check whether scan document is correct or not for today. So this is the last class before midterm exam. Okay. So whatever we covered till today is part of the midterm exam. And as I was saying in the previous class, what sort of question you can expect? Not much numerical type of question can be given, because you cannot solve them in this exam time frame of 2 hours. So either some type of, like I was saying, say some sort of derivation. Okay. For example, I can ask you to say for 1D conduction problem or 2D steady state conduction problem to derive the uh, discretized equation using implicit method. Something like that can be asked, or using explicit method. Okay. Then I can ask you for different type of questions. What is the domain of dependence? Draw the domain of dependence. Can you still hear me? Draw the domain of dependence. Draw the
Yes, sir.
domain of influence. Things like that. Then I can ask you to give an example of a sort of a parabolic equation, uh, apart from the equation that has been taught in the class, and try to draw the domain of dependence, domain of independence. So similar to that, or some general questions on, say, an aircraft is flying through the at a certain velocity. How will you take the domain? What will be the domain? What will be the boundary conditions? What equations you are going to solve? Things like that. So you may have to describe. If numerical examples are given, very limited, maybe one example may be there. So also it will be just a second. Okay, it will be on very simple, say, discretization, so divide a domain into 4 grid points, something like that, if it is given. I have not yet prepared the questions, so I don't know what will I give, but that is what you can expect. Some small questions also you may expect, like at this moment I cannot recall, but we will see. Okay, give an example where, say, by clever change of coordinates, we can reduce the number of independent variables so that we can speed up the numerical process. So this type of discussions we have had previously in the beginning classes. Okay, what are independent coordinates? What are dependent coordinates? So similar type of things. Let me just check 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73. So up to this. Okay. So we will continue from the previous class notes, because we have not yet finished that. And then we will go to the today's class notes. I hope you can see my screen. Can someone confirm, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. We'll reduce it somewhat. Okay, let us keep it large right now, and later we will see. So that I can see the chat. So we were discussing about, so I had given an example in the previous class about a 1D transient conduction problem, and using that example I demonstrated how to use or develop an explicit scheme. Okay, so based on that example I showed how to develop an explicit scheme. The main feature of the explicit scheme is that for any point you can directly get the variable value based on all the values which are known from the previous calculation, like based on all previous point values. So for the k plus 1th time step, you can get the value of the point based on all the values which depend on kth time step. No value depends on k plus 1th time step. And because by that point we have derived all the values at kth time step, we know all the values and we can directly get and solve and get the equation. Okay, this was the main feature of the explicit scheme. And I have shown also how to do this based on diagram, how the matching proceeds. So if you know the values at 3 previous time step points, you get the new time step value. Okay, like this. So, and boundary conditions and initial conditions plays an important role. So for the points which are neighboring to the boundary points, one of the values are already known. You don't have to solve. You can just use those values. Okay. Similarly, for the second time step, the first values are already known from the initial condition. Like that we have already seen. Okay. Then we formally defined what is explicit and implicit scheme, and we defined explicit scheme to be such that all properties at the kth level are known, means kth time step are known, and values at k plus 1 are to be calculated based on equations where all the properties at kth time step are known, like we had given. Sorry, it is not shown. I have already shown it previously. For implicit scheme, if you see the discretized equation, the discretized equation itself has parameters, other parameters, which also depend on k plus 1 time step. Okay, which also depend on k plus 1 time step. So for example, if we discretize this alpha del square t del x square term, we have discussed that we will discretize it in terms of alpha. So ti plus 1 k plus 1 minus 2 ti k plus 1 plus ti minus 1 k plus 1, like this we will discretize. Okay, as compared to the case where as compared to the case where all the values were in terms of k. Okay. So instead of k, here the only difference is that now we have the k plus 1 values. But because of this small change, now you cannot directly solve the equation, because in this form of the equation, here also you will have the k plus 1 terms, so which are also unknown. So for any point you have more than one unknown. So you have to solve simultaneously for all the points. The number of unknowns is equal to the number of points. So number of unknowns equal to the number of equations, and simultaneously you have to solve. You cannot just independently solve for any point. That is the difference between implicit and explicit method. And we have seen different types of implicit scheme. One is the fully implicit scheme. Let me just increase the slide size slightly bit. Fully implicit scheme, where it only depends on the k plus 1 time step value. Then the semi-implicit scheme or Crank-Nicolson scheme, where it is an average. So it is equidistant between the old time step and new time step value. So it is an average of the old time step and new time step value. So each variable we write as half of ti plus 1 k plus 1 plus ti plus 1 k. So average value. And then we have seen the general implicit scheme, where it can be any weight factor. So any combination of the previous time step value and new time step value, depending on what value of w we give. If w becomes equal to 0, it becomes equal to explicit scheme, where there is no dependence on the new time step value. If w is 1, there is no dependence on the old time step value, and it becomes a fully implicit scheme. And w equal to 0.5, it becomes halfway between implicit and explicit. So equal dependence on new time step and old time step values. So it's the Crank-Nicolson scheme. So depending on the value of w, we can change whether we will go more towards the forward direction, means more towards the forward time step direction, or more weighted towards the backward time step direction. And we concluded this section with a discussion. Somebody had asked a question. If you go through the video, we had a discussion. I don't know whether that is still open. No, it's not open. This is a different PCM energy storage. So we concluded the section based on what the physics means in terms of this, means how we have to relate this to the physics. So if the physics is such that say we have an iron sphere which is submerged in water, or not water, say iron sphere which is put in a furnace, a normal room temperature iron sphere which is put in a furnace. Initially, because of large temperature difference, there will be drastic increase in temperature. Then gradually the temperature difference will reduce, and the rate of heat transfer will also reduce, and the rate of increase of temperature will also reduce. Okay, so it means that it is more towards what? So initially itself it goes more towards the final value. Okay, and remains there. Means the curve is such that rapid increase occurs initially and then it goes. So for a large time step, most of the time step, the value for most of the time step, the value will be near to the final value of the time step, not the initial value of the time step. Okay, so in that case, fully implicit scheme will be a better type of scheme. Okay, similarly, if there is another type of, say, physics where the rate is very slow, okay, like a chemical reaction, means initially it is slow, but it increases with time, means the slope increases with time. More reaction, like some reaction occurs, it increases the temperature. As a result, more reaction occur, more temperature, like a positive feedback loop is there. And within a large time step, most of the temperature value will be near to the in a beginning value, and only towards the end it will go to the final value. This type of things we have studied. In that case, explicit scheme is more suitable. If you just compare the physics, if the time step is very small, it does not matter. Remember that the truncation error goes to smaller and smaller values with smaller time step and smaller grid size. Sorry, if the grid size is very small, it does not matter. So any of this scheme is okay. Remember that there are advantages and disadvantages also of using these schemes. Means, say maybe Crank-Nicolson is more accurate, but Crank-Nicolson will require more calculation. You have to do the averaging and more calculation. So if we want to reduce the simulation time, we may reduce the simulation time to half by using an explicit scheme, even less than half actually, as we will see later, because Crank-Nicolson or fully implicit scheme will require simultaneous solution of multiple equations, so it takes much more time as compared to explicit scheme. So we have to also think from that point of view that how fast we want the simulation to occur. Okay, so up to that point we have discussed. So I will give one example here. We have already discussed the explicit scheme. Same problem. I will give the example of Crank-Nicolson scheme. You can similarly try for the implicit scheme also, which I will not do here, but you can do on your own, which is very easy. Okay, so what is the equation? Again, same equation, 1D transient conduction problem. Del T is equal to alpha del square T del x square. Okay, exactly same problem. So we have already discussed here how the time marching and space marching occurs. So if we draw the domain, the physical domain is one dimensional, right? Physical domain only varies with x because it's a 1D problem. And we are dividing this physical domain of length from 0 to L into certain number of, say, n number of points, where we give an index of the point as I. So I varies from not 0, from 1 to n. Okay, I varies from 1 to n. So we divide the physical domain into n points. I equal to 1 and I equal to n points are at the boundary, and all the other points are the internal points. Along the time direction, let the time step be delta t. Means in each calculation forward in time, we proceed by delta t time. Okay, so initial time is 0. So once we have calculated all the values of temperature at the 0 time for all the internal points, which is already there for the first case because it's known from the initial condition, then we will calculate after delta t time what is the temperature of all the points. Again the same points, but now it has proceeded in time direction. That's why I have drawn a new line. Physically is the same, these are the same points. This point is the same as this point, but along the time direction it has advanced. Okay, physically, space wise these are the same points. So this can be calculated based on the previous points. This is what is the marching type of solution. All these are marching solution, explicit, implicit. The way of marching is different, but ultimately we are marching forward in time. So now let us come to our particular scheme, Crank-Nicolson scheme. Okay. So for the Crank-Nicolson scheme, what was the equation? Form of the equation. Left hand side anyway there is no problem, right? Left hand side of the derivative anyway there is no problem. The problem arises on how to discretize the right hand side, which has the space term x. Okay, differentiation with respect to x. So for Crank-Nicolson we have devised the scheme that each of the temperature values will be written as an average value of the old time step and new time step value, like Ti plus 1 k plus 1 plus Ti plus 1 k. So for each point we will have a mixture of both the old and new values. Okay. So say after some time we have arrived at the kth time step and we know all the values for the kth time step. We have solved up to the kth time step at this particular point. Okay. So we know all the values. We know the boundary values obviously for I is equal to 1 and I is equal to n. What is the temperature for k is equal to k, kth time step. Apart from this, why is it is so hot? Just a second. Apart from this, we also know all the internal values of I. Okay, I is equal to 2, I equal to 3, like this. I is equal to I minus 1, I is equal to I is equal to I plus 1, up to I is equal to n plus n minus 1. So all the internal values are also known up to this point. Then in the next time step, all the values are unknown except the boundary values. So I is equal to 1 and I is equal to n unknown for k plus 1, but I is equal to 2, I is equal to 3, like this. I is equal to I minus 1, I is equal to I is equal to I plus 1. All these are unknown. Okay. All the values are unknown up to this point. Our job is to devise this scheme so that we can calculate the values for this entire line, k plus 1th line. Okay, k plus 1th time step. Once we know how to calculate for the k plus 1th time step, these values will become known, and then we will proceed to k plus 2th time step using the exact same procedure. Means we will make the k plus 1th time step as k and k plus 2th time step as k plus 1, and just repeat the thing, repeat the loop again and again. Okay, to march forward in time. So that's why it's also known as marching solution, because you don't need the history of the previous values. You just need the k value history, and based on this you can calculate the k plus 1 value history. So you can keep on replacing this value in your memory, stored memory. Okay. So I have kept the equation open here for the Crank-Nicolson. Remember, this is for the Crank-Nicolson scheme. Okay, it's open on this side for the right hand side question. Okay. So the difference equation for I k plus 1 for this point, I k plus 1 point, has unknown variables I minus 1 k plus 1 and I plus 1 k plus 1, and known variables I minus 1 k, I k and I plus 1 k. These three known variables are there, plus two unknown variables are there for the equation for this point. Okay, let us take a look at the equation. Ti k plus 1 minus Ti k. I will go to the diagram now for reference. Tik plus 1 plus minus Tik by delta t is equal to alpha of half Ti plus 1 k plus 1 plus half Ti plus 1 k. So the same thing that we had written here, same thing we had seen previously. Okay, so for the space steps you need the values, for this you need the values at I minus 1, I and I plus 1. So for I minus 1 we are taking an average of these two I minus 1 values, Ti minus 1 k and Ti minus 1 k plus 1. Okay, Ti minus 1 k and Ti minus 1 k plus 1. Similarly, for the I plus 1, we are taking the average of these two values, Ti plus 1 k plus 1, this value, and Ti plus 1 k, this value. And for the middle point, we are also taking the average of these two values. So Ti k plus 1, which is the top point, plus Ti k, which is the bottom point. So all the three values are like this. So you just discretize this. And ultimately, if you go through some calculation, algebraic simplification, this is with the final form of the equation. Long equation, alpha delta t by 2 delta x square to I minus 1 k plus 1. So what we have done here is that we have arranged all the terms so that the k plus 1 terms are on one side of the equation and kth terms are on the other side of the equation. Okay. If you see the previous equation, what we have discretized, you have 6 points. Okay, 3 points which have kth term and 3 points which have k plus 1th term. Okay, so all the 6 points will be there in the final equation. So alpha delta t by 2 delta x square t I minus 1 k plus 1. So this is this point. Okay, and this is the coefficient of this point. Similarly, minus 1 plus alpha delta t by plus delta x by delta x square ti k plus 1, second point, plus alpha delta t by 2 delta x square ti plus 1 k plus 1, the third point. Okay. Similarly, on the right hand side, you have the k terms similar to the equation. You can easily do this calculation. I am not going through the details. You can do this. So you have 6 variables, 3 unknown variables, ti minus 1 k plus 1, ti k plus 1 and ti plus 1 k plus 1, and 3 known variables, ti k, ti plus 1, ti plus 1k and ti minus 1k. Okay. So what I can do is now I can write this equation of the form by taking all the unknown variables, coefficients of unknown variables as a and b. Okay. So a into ti minus 1 k plus 1. So this alpha delta t by 2 delta x square, this we have written as a. Okay. Alpha delta t by 2 delta x square. Why we have written this as a? Because everything is known here. Alpha is known. It's a given material parameter. Diffusivity is a material parameter. Delta t and delta x are time step and space step which are taken by you, decided by you. This is a known factor a. So a ti minus 1 k plus 1, the unknown term, plus b ti k plus 1. So this entire minus 1 plus alpha delta t by delta x square, this is also a known term, we are calling it as b. Okay. Again, the third term is same as this term. This is again a ti plus 1 k plus 1. This could have been different also. It could have been c also. It does not matter. For this case, it is a. I can write this as c also. Then c will be equal to a. Okay. So these are the 3 unknown, and everything known, we have just put them together in a single term called k. Okay. Why k? Because why everything is known? Because all the t values are known here, and also all the property alpha, delta t, delta x are known. So everything is known on the right hand side. Let us tell them as ki, and we are solving for the ith point. So this value we are going to call as ki. Okay, for the ith point, this is the ki. Okay. So for the ith point, now the governing equation to calculate the value at I k plus 1 can be written as, in the discretized form, it can be written as a t minus ti minus 1 k plus 1 plus d b ti k plus 1 plus a ti plus 1 k plus 1 equal to ki. Okay. 3 unknowns, 1 equation. Okay, where a, b and k are known. These t values are unknown. You will get similar type of equation if you do fully implicit scheme also. Okay, only the coefficient values will become different, but the equations will be similar. K will be different, and some of the coefficients will be different, but the equations will be similar. Only the coefficients will be different. Or even for the general equation, if you do with omega, with w, with certain value of w, you will again get the same equation where only the a, b and k values will become different. And in that case, if it's a general equation, then this some of this a and b terms will be different. Okay. So you already know what is a, b and k. You can just write from here in this equation. Okay. So let us try to understand this equation. So what I am going to do from now on, we were taking this all this ti plus I plus 1 comma k, ti comma k, ti minus 1 comma k, like this as comma, but the typical notation is that the time step is indicated as superscript. Okay, and the space or grid points are indicated as subscript, because there may be more than one grid point. I can write I comma j like this, and the time steps go to the top of the variable, so superscript. Okay, till now I was just showing you how to, like that, the time step is similar to space step, so we are using the time step similar to j variable, so that we can draw like this. But from now onward, we will follow the conventional notation. Okay, so our difference equation can be written as a ti minus 1 k plus 1, same equation. using general conventional notation, plus b ti k plus 1 plus a ti plus 1 k plus 1 is equal to ki. Okay, so k denotes the k plus 1 denotes the unknown time step, I denotes the space step. Okay, grid points. So now what is the solution procedure for this? Okay, so let us try to understand the solution procedure. So calculation is started from k equal to 2 as k equal to 1 values are already known. Okay, let me see whether diagram is not there. Okay. So k equal to 1, these values. K equal to 1 is these values. These are already known. So we will start from k equal to 2. Okay. Sorry, means k equal to 1 itself, k plus 1 equal to 2. We will start from k plus 1 equal to 2. Not from k equal to 2, k plus 1 equal to 2. Because k is equal to 1 means k plus 1 equal to 2, which is unknown. Okay. So we can write this as same equation as a t1 for the second time step 2, b t2 2, a t3 2. Okay. So we are starting from the grid point where I is equal to 2. Okay, from this grid point. Because I is equal to 1 values are known from boundary condition. So this is unknown. For this grid point we have written A332 is equal to K2. Similarly, now for the third grid point we will write the equation as AT22 plus BT32 plus AT42 is equal to K3. For the third grid point, its neighboring grid points are T2 and T4 and the current grid point is T3, and for this the known factor is K3. Okay, and all are at second time step. So we write all of them as second time step. Like this we will proceed. So for a general k plus 1 at time step, how the equations will look like? For the k plus 1 at time step, this value is known. So we will start from this. I is equal to 2. For I is equal to 2, our equation has I minus 1 neighbor, which is I is equal to 1. So which is already known value, a t1 k plus 1 plus b t2 k plus 1 plus a t3 k plus 1. These 3 points, okay, is equal to k2 coefficient, known coefficient of this point. Okay. Similarly, you go to the next point now. I is equal to 3. For this point, neighboring grid point is a t2 k plus 1 plus a b t3 k plus 1 plus a t4 k plus 1 is equal to k3. Okay, you go on marching like this until you reach the ith grid point. For ith grid point, we have already seen that the equation is a ti minus 1 k plus 1 plus b ti k plus 1 plus c ti plus 1 k plus 1 is equal to known values ki. Okay, again you keep on marching, and when will you finish? You will finish when I is equal to n minus 1, because the last point value is known. So for I is equal to n minus 1, the left neighboring value is Tn minus 2, then the actual value is n minus 1, and the right neighboring value is n, okay, which is a known value, is equal to k. So this is your set of equations. How many equations do you have here? You are starting from I is equal to 2 and you are finishing at I is equal to n minus 1. So you have n minus 2 equations. You have n minus 2 equations. What is the number of unknowns? Number of unknowns are the temperature values at each of these grid points at k plus 1. So n minus 2 internal grid points. So n minus 2 unknowns. N minus 2 equations, n minus 2 unknowns. So if we solve this n minus 2 equations simultaneously to get the n minus 2 unknowns, we will get the unknown values. Okay, so this is the discretized form of the equation. Okay, if we solve this set of equation, n minus 2 equations, for this n minus 2 unknowns, we will get the final solution. When we get the final solution, we will proceed. We will make this k plus 1 at time step as k and the next time step as k plus 1 and again do the same calculation. Okay. So let us see in a better way how to represent this. So we can write this as in the matrix form. Okay, I will just slightly lower this size to accommodate some of the more things here. Okay. In the matrix form, so what is the first equation? Yes, so we need boards where you can draw side. I have a large screen, so I don't have problem. But those of you who are looking at small screens, it might be a problem. Large monitor is better. Same thing we will keep open here. This was the set of equations, and this is the resultant set of equations in the matrix form. Okay. So we will start from the first equation. Okay. So n minus 2 unknowns. Okay, starting from t2 up to tn minus 1, all for the k plus 1 at time step. So we will write this as a vector, column vector, t2 k plus 1, t3 k plus 1 up to tn minus 1 k plus 1. Okay. Then this equation I can write what is the coefficient of t2. Sorry, this is the general equation. What is the coefficient of t2 k plus 1? It is b. Okay. What is the coefficient of t3 k plus 1? It is a. What is the coefficient of t4 k plus 1 in this equation? First equation? It is 0 because there is no t4 k plus 1 term here or no t5 k plus 1. So all the subsequent values are 0 up to the tn minus 1 k plus 1. Okay. And what about this first term? What has happened to this? At plus at1 k plus 1? Can anyone answer? Where has this term gone? At plus 1 k plus 1? 81 k plus 1, sorry.
Inside K2 dash.
Constant, sir.
Yes. So because this is known, right? Because T1 is known from boundary condition, there is no point in putting it here. Okay, it is already a known factor. So A into T1 k plus 1 is known. So we will absorb this into the K2. So K2 is already there. K2 minus, so for the first equation, I can write K2 minus a t1 k plus 1 in this side. Okay, so on the left hand side you will only have this t2 and t3 terms. So this k2 a minus a t1 k plus 1 we can write as k2 dash. Okay, it is absorbed. Same thing has happened for the final equation, where for the final equation the unknowns are tn minus 2 and tn minus 1. Tn is known. I will take this to the right hand side and write this as kn minus 1 minus a tn k plus 1. Okay, and this as kn minus 1 dash. So this is a known factor. So we will write like this. Okay. So now you understand this, how these are. So for example, for the T3 equation, A into T2k plus 1, A into T2k plus 1, like this, plus B into T3k plus 1, B into T3k plus 1, plus A into T4k plus 1, A into T4k plus 1, plus 0 into T5k plus 1, plus 0 into T6k plus 1, like this, plus 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, up to the end. Okay, is equal to K3. This is the form of the equation. So this is the matrix form of the equation. This is the coefficient matrix. This is the unknown variable. This is the known value, known vector. Okay, on the right hand side, known column vector. Some points regarding this. The coefficient matrix is a tridiagonal matrix for this case. The way we have discretized the equation, each equation consists of 3 unknowns. Okay, so as a result, you will see that only 3 lines have values, all the other values are 0. This is a particular type of matrix which is known as tridiagonal matrix. The main diagonal is present. Apart from the main diagonal, the adjacent 2 diagonals are also present. All the other values are 0. This is a very sparse matrix, means most of the values are 0. Okay, they are very sparse matrix. Only 3 diagonals have values. So as a result, there are tools or there are schemes which we can solve this equation much more efficiently than conventional schemes. Okay, conventional schemes, I will come to this point. Okay, just wait for this. So coefficient matrix is a tridiagonal matrix. Values of a and b for each row can vary depending on the variation of properties. Right now I have written ab as constant, but remember the properties can vary over the domain, means with time the alpha value can change, or with space the alpha value can change, or even I can have a uneven grid spacing or uneven time step. So initially time step is small, later on I can increase the time step. So these coefficients which were dependent on alpha, delta t and delta x can change. So a and b values can change. Each row may have different a, b values. Then I will write b1, a1, a2, b2, a2, A3, B3, A3 like this, something like this I will write. Okay. So they can, but all of them can be calculated from the coefficients in general, but they can be different for each row. Okay. To solve this, we can just use matrix inversion, means I can write this as A into T is equal to K. So which means that T is equal to A inverse K. Okay. So if I can do T is equal to A inverse K, I can solve this equation. So by matrix inversion, I can solve this equation. Now in general matrix inversion, normal schemes for dense matrix, you know what is a dense matrix? All the values are present. Most of the values are present. Okay. Those are very inefficient. Means the time required for solving them depends on, like it depends on the order of n cube. Means if the matrix is of size say n by n, okay, in this case it's n minus 2 by n minus 2, okay, so this is a 10 by 10 matrix. The time required will depend on 10 cube. If the number of grid point increases from 10 to 20, then the time required will increase by 8 times, because it will become 20 cube, proportional to 20 cube. Okay. So instead of that, there are much better algorithms which we will study later, which is known as Thomas algorithm, TDMA algorithm, from which where the dependence is only linearly proportional to the value of n, not cube. Okay, means if you increase the size by 2 times, the time required increases 2 times, not 8 times. Okay, so there are more. Why this is possible? Because this is a very sparse matrix. So because most of the values are 0, it is much easily possible to calculate the solutions of this equation in a much simpler way. If it was a very dense matrix, it would not have been possible. So we'll study different solution algorithms: Gaussian elimination, Gauss-Jordan elimination, Thomas algorithm, matrix inversion, so these type of things later in the course. Okay, after you meet them much later. But right now at this point, what you need to know is that once we have in this form, you can easily solve. So say you develop this form in MATLAB, you can directly use the MATLAB solver. You don't even have to develop any algorithm. MATLAB has optimized algorithm. So you write that A is equal to this coefficient matrix, T is this unknown vector, and K is the known vector, and then calculate T is equal to A inverse K. Then you will get the correct value of T vector, all the values in MATLAB. In one step you will get T is equal to A inverse K. So by matrix inversion you can get the values. Okay. So this is the way for solving any implicit problem. For this example I have shown for Crank-Nicolson scheme, but exactly similar type of thing will happen for any implicit scheme, where only the A, B values, coefficient values will be different, and this K values will be different. Otherwise the scheme will remain similar, and you will have to use similar thing for solving the equations. Okay. Any questions up to this? I hope you will be able to solve the implicit scheme also now. I will give an assignment, programming assignment this week through MS Teams. It will be due after the midterm, so you can do it after the midterm or before the midterm for practicing. It's a programming assignment. It will take some time. I have to think about what is the exact assignment I want to give, but it will come on MS Teams. Okay, with some due date.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, it is for both implicit and explicit extension.
Which one?
Yeah, this method, sir.
No, this is for all the different types of implicit scheme. For explicit, you don't need, right? Go to the explicit scheme.
Okay, yeah, sir, I understand.
Explicit scheme, directly you will get the solution. You don't need a set of.
Okay, sir.
Why we needed that? You understand, right? But I will just explain for those who are still confused. Okay. For the explicit scheme, if you want to get the value at ik plus 1, all the other values are known. Okay. So one equation, one unknown. For any type of implicit scheme, if you want to get the value at ik plus 1, one equation is there, but 3 unknowns are there. One equation and 3 unknowns. Okay, for the ik plus 1 term. So because you have one equation and 3 unknowns, you cannot directly get the value. But these 3 unknowns are, 2 of them are neighboring points. They have their own equations. So ultimately, if you just combine all the equations, you have n minus 2 unknowns and n minus 2 equations. and you can solve them to get the n-2 unknown values. Okay, that's why you need to solve simultaneously. It's like you have 3 equations, 3 unknowns, right? By hand also I can solve by elimination, like what we do if we have 3 equations and 3 unknowns, or 2 equations, 2x plus y equal to 3, x plus 2y is equal to 7. You can just solve it by elimination. Same thing, but instead of 2 or 3 equations, we have n number of equations. And that's why we are writing it in a structured form, in the matrix form, which can be computerized or put in the as an algorithm in the computer, okay, in the matrix form, in terms of I and j instead of the equations. So I can write that all the variables in this matrix I can define in terms of I and j or I and k, something like that. Okay, if I is equal to 1 to this, enter these values like this, I can calculate. This is what you have to do in your programming assignment. Something will come up next and you will have to do. Okay, so we'll go on. We have a lot of more things to finish in today's class. 5-6 more pages, but like some small topics, not major, nothing major, small topics which needs to be done before the Mr. So one of them is that till now what we have considered, okay, we have considered that in this equation alpha is a constant. Okay, if alpha is not a constant, is alpha is dependent on temperature. Okay, what will happen? This equation I can write this as del t is equal to alpha, which is a function of temperature, into del square t del x square. So in that case, how will the discretized equation look like? Using explicit method, I can write this equation as Ti plus ik plus 1 equal to Tik plus alpha delta t by delta x square plus whatever was there in the bracket previously also. We had calculated whatever is there in the bracket. Okay, but the point is that this alpha now I have to calculate based on some temperature, because alpha is function of temperature. And for the explicit scheme, I will, because this is an explicit scheme, I will use the old temperature value for calculating alpha. So this alpha value is known because we are using the old temperature value, right? So there is no problem, as alpha can be calculated using previous time step value of Tik. Now imagine the same equation, but we are not using explicit method. We are using semi-implicit or fully implicit method. Okay, let us consider Crank-Nicolson method, semi-implicit. So here how can we define alpha? Alpha should be half of alpha based on the new value of temperature Tik plus 1 plus half of alpha based on the old value of temperature Tik. Okay, half alpha Tik plus 1 plus alpha Tik. Okay, so instead of alpha, now here in this expression we have to put, means the same expression is there, but in this expression of alpha we have to put half alpha Tik plus 1 plus alpha Tik. Okay, in this Crank-Nicolson scheme. Okay, what we have derived. So what will happen? Now we will have nonlinear terms. There will be terms which are products of variables. So you will have terms like this. So there is a term Ti plus there is a term Ti plus 1 k plus 1, which also has a coefficient which also depends on Tik plus 1. Okay, so Tik plus 1 into Tik plus alpha Tik plus 1. So coefficient itself depends on Tik plus 1. It's a nonlinear term. Okay, so some nonlinearity has crept in the discretized equation. So if the alpha is nonlinear, if the alpha depends on temperature, alpha is not nonlinear, sorry, alpha depends on temperature, it leads to nonlinear algebraic equations. So this is just an example I am giving. There can be other types of nonlinearity also. Okay, so many equations, density may be nonlinear, means density may be function of temperature, viscosity may be a function of temperature, something may be a function of velocity, many things. Okay, or something may be a function of some other unknown variable, concentration. So if some nonlinearity is there, then we see that using explicit method, it is not much difficult, because we already know what is the value of that nonlinear term. Because there is no nonlinearity, because this is known value. Okay, it just becomes a known coefficient. But in case of implicit or semi-implicit method, additional terms are there which are nonlinear. Okay, so now it becomes very complicated. because you need to simultaneously solve a large number of nonlinear equations, which is very difficult. Previously, we were solving a large number of linear equations in simultaneous form. Now you have to solve simultaneously large number of nonlinear equations, which is very difficult. Okay. So this is one of the this is one of the difficulty in implicit method. If there is some nonlinearity, so what is the way out? You have to use some iterative method, like for example, based on known values, previous iteration values, you calculate the values and proceed towards the next value. We will see these things later. So for example, you already have some value of ti I plus 1 k plus 1, okay, after some iteration within the same time step. After some iteration, after r iterations, you have the value of ti plus 1 k plus 1 ti k plus 1. Use those values to get the value of alpha, and use those alpha values to get the new iteration value of ti. Okay, so r plus 1 at iteration value for the same time step. In the same k plus 1 time step, you are doing more than one iteration, means again and again calculating and refining the solution until your solution is not changing much. This is known as iterative method. Iterative methods we will study later. Okay, this is one way. The second way is to linearize the terms, means we can linearize some of the, remove the non-linear term by approximating that term using a linear form. For example, this term I may put it in a linear form. Instead of ti k plus 1, I may put it as some function of ti k itself. Okay, so that the entire term becomes linear. So there are ways of linearization also. So these are the two ways to avoid simultaneous solution of large number of nonlinear equations. So implicit method has a difficulty for when nonlinearity creeps in, and explicit method has that advantage in those cases. Okay. So we will finish our discussion of the explicit and implicit method by just outlining some of the advantages and disadvantages of each of this method. Okay. I have not separately given what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages. I have a mixed set of points, and you can judge which one are the advantage and which one are the disadvantage. Okay. Typically, remember that, just a second. Explicit methods are easier to code, means before going to these points, just from a practical perspective, or say from a if you just need to learn from coding perspective or practical perspective, without going to technical details, what we should know is that explicit scheme is much easier to code, means it is much simpler to code. Okay, it is better for very complex physics. Coding is easier for very complex physics. You can put more and more terms like non-linearity, other terms much more easily you can handle. However, it has some stringent time step limitation. It has some limitation, stability issues. So if the time steps are not selected properly, the solution diverges and you get you cannot solve the problem at all. Okay, so this is in simple form, and if the physics is simple, so implicit method is not very difficult to implement. In that case, physics is complicated, implicit method is quite difficult to implement. Okay, you have to make source terms, other things, which is quite difficult. Towards the end of the course, I will go into some case studies where we will show these things. Then implicit method does not have stringent time step condition. You can take larger time steps, so solution may be sometimes faster, and coding is more difficult. Okay, coding is more difficult. There are some other advantages of implicit method. I will come to this when I am going through these points. Okay. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of explicit method? One main advantage is that you get separate solution of each discretized equation. Okay, you don't have to depend on the neighboring points. Directly you can solve. So it is very easy to code and very fast to solve. So second point is very easy to code. It is very simple to set up this algorithm in a programming language. Okay, you don't need matrix inversion, things like that. Main drawback is that you need to satisfy the stability criteria. Okay, there's something called the stability criteria. So the delta t time step has to be sufficiently small depending on the value of delta x. If delta x is small, delta t has to be much small. It is generally proportional to delta x square. So if you reduce the delta x by half, your delta t has to be reduced by 1 to 1/4 of the value. Okay. So what will happen? You need more time steps for the same range of solutions. So for going to t equal to 100 second, I need much more number of time step. Okay. Otherwise, the solution will become unstable. What do I mean by unstable? The errors will increase with time and the solutions diverge. Diverge means that instead of going towards the correct solution, the solution goes in the opposite direction towards some, say, infinite value or some minus infinite value, something like that. Okay, some point is there. Question or what is this? By following linearization, as you are showing, can we solve Navier-Stokes equation? See, Navier-Stokes, the main problem is not because of the velocity, means because of the nonlinear time. Yes, we can solve it. The main problem comes because of the, so Krishna Kumar was asking, by following linearization method, can we solve Navier-Stokes equation? Okay, so the Navier-Stokes equation, as we will study later, or those who have taken the CFD course with me, knows this. So there are some problems with the Navier-Stokes equation, like the nonlinearity. But those problems can be easily taken care of by iteration or linearization. Means you can use the previous say time step value or previous time step value for one of the velocity. So linearization means that you have two velocities, right? Del t of rho u. So one of the u you take old u value, then it will become linear. The second u is the new time step value. Okay, so you can calculate for the new time step value based on the old one of the u will become old time step value, which will just go into the coefficient. So it can be done. The main problem comes from the unknown pressure value, because there is no pressure equation, and as a result we have all this simpler Piso and all these other algorithms. So many algorithms are there, right? Because of this unknown pressure variable, which cannot be directly solved, and we have to formulate some strategy based on the extra equation, which is the continuity equation for the pressure equation. But if pressure is given to you by some method, or the pressure field is known, yes, directly you can solve the Navier-Stokes equation using linearization or using iteration. It is not difficult. You can use the same scheme that we will use for energy equation. Okay, there will not be any issue. What you have to do is that one of these, so you have terms like rho u, you take one of the u as the old time step value, one of the u as the new time step value. Okay, so like this you have to proceed. Where were we? Okay, I will give you a break. Just let us finish this page discussion, and then I will give you a break. So needs to satisfy stringent stability criteria, means delta t has to be less than some function of delta x square. Okay, this will lead to more runtime in some cases. However, positive point is that per time step the simulation runtime is less, because less calculation is required in a time step, no matrix inversion, nothing. So in a single time step, the time required for calculation is less, but the number of time step is more. Okay. So these are some of the advantages and disadvantages of the explicit scheme. What about the implicit scheme? The opposite, right? So simultaneous solution of a system of equation independently you cannot solve for any grid point. Simultaneous solution of a system of equations. What it means in computational term, it means that your runtime per time step will be more. Single time step takes more time to run, because you have lot of calculation in a single time step, matrix inversion. Okay. However, positive point is that you can take larger values of delta t, because no stability criteria is there. You can take larger time step value delta t. Okay, you can take very large values as compared to explicit, 10 times, 20 times also. Again, one drawback, it is complex to implement. Okay, it will take more time to implement this. So if I want to calculate a very complex physics in a simple domain, I may opt for the explicit scheme. Okay, because the domain is simple. Another drawback which actually is a consequence of using this large delta t, is that the truncation error in the temporal scheme in the delta t term, which is of the first order mostly, will become quite large if you take large delta t, because it is proportional to delta t, right? Truncation error is proportional to delta t, first order of delta t for this first order scheme. So delta t, this is we are discretizing as first order. So truncation error can be large if you take large delta t. This is no problem if you are trying to reach ultimately a steady state type of solution in the long run. So there anyway, there is no dependence on time. As the solution reaches steady state, there is no error, no problem. Another issue of taking larger delta t is that it may not accurately represent the time-wise variation of the actual physical phenomena. Okay, what does this mean? Say your temperature is increasing, the same problem of, say, I have an iron sphere at temperature 30 degrees centigrade, I put it in a furnace of 1000 degrees centigrade. Temperature will increase rapidly, okay, very rapidly temperature will increase. Now, if I take very small time steps, say time step of 0.01 second, in a single time step the temperature increase will be very less, say 0.1 degree centigrade initially. And because I am bound to take very small time step in explicit scheme, the temperature variation in a single time step is not much for the explicit scheme. For the implicit scheme, let us take a time step t equal to 5 seconds, okay, which will also give correct solution. But what happens if during this 5 seconds, the temperature goes from 30 degree to 60 degree in a single time step, okay. So whatever we have assumed while discretizing, lot of approximation creeps in into that. The physics is not accurately represented because the temperature goes from 30 to 60 not in a linear fashion, okay. It goes in a non-linear fashion. It rapidly increases and goes then slows down, okay. So our physics is not accurately represented if delta t we take larger and larger. Similarly, say something is dependent on temperature. Say the chemical reaction rate is dependent on temperature, and there is a source term of the chemical reaction rate. So if you take small time steps, in each time step you will accurately calculate the temperature. Temperature is not going to change much. So the chemical reaction rate also in each time step will be precisely calculated. If you take very large time step, from one time step to the next time step, the temperature changes so much that the chemical reaction change also rate also jumps by a huge value each time, and it does not accurately capture the physical phenomena. That is another problem. But the positive thing is that with much less time step, you can solve the equations. Okay. Now there is another big advantage of the implicit scheme. You may think that, oh, so many problems are there with the implicit. Coding is difficult, so much other difficulties is there. Why will I use this implicit scheme at all? I will always use explicit. Just a second. Now, if the geometry is complex, okay, geometry is complex. Let me see whether some example is there. Okay. Okay, let us this. Internet connection is poor, so you have to bear with me. Can you see the slides?
Yes, sir.
Let me check whether I have a better one. What has happened? Things are so slow. This is not good. Okay, let us go by this. So for this aircraft example, okay, you can see the aircraft.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So how will I generate the grid? So we will have some large domain, right? Aircraft will be a small part of the domain because the flow effects will be there after a long distance after the aircraft also. So I may have to take a domain which is 20, 30 times larger than the aircraft, right? Or at 50 times the size of the aircraft along the downstream side. Okay. So what will be the mesh size I will keep? Generally in a CFD problem, whenever there are sharp changes, sharp gradients, there you need a very fine mesh size, right, to capture the gradient. And wherever far away from the gradients, you don't need very sharp mesh size, right? You need very coarse mesh because there is no point in keeping sharp mesh there. Means the sharp means very small mesh there because anyway the gradients are not sharp. Okay. Similarly for this case also. So near these dinosaur legs, mesh needs to be very refined because large change in gradient, velocity gradient will occur here. Far away, the gradient is much less, means not much change is occurring. So I can take larger mesh size. Is this clear to you why variable mesh size is taken? Can anyone reply?
Yes, sir.
Whenever there is sharp gradient, we have to take fine mesh. Gradient can be of temperature, can be of velocity. Any gradient is there, sharp gradient. You have to take fine mesh to capture the gradient accurately. But whenever there is no sharp gradient, like far away from the actual object, then you can take a very coarse gradient. You can take a coarse mesh. You can obviously take a fine mesh, but it will lead to much more higher number of grids, so much more slower solution. So you will take a very coarse mesh like it has shown here. This grid is much larger as this. Okay. So now if you use explicit scheme for solving this equation, what will be your delta t value for this? So delta t is, as I've said, delta t is proportional. Maximum value of time step is proportional to delta x square. So depending on what is the delta x, delta t will be proportional to delta x square. So for these grids, okay, delta x is quite large, so large delta t is possible. But for these grids, the delta x is very small, okay, maybe more than this. So the time step here needs to be 100 times as compared to this, okay. But you cannot have separate time step for different locations. So ultimately for the entire domain, you are forced to take a time step which is 100 times smaller as compared to what might have been possible for other regions. Only because, and these small changes can be in a very small part, okay. Your entire domain may have very large grid, but maybe only during this, say around this neck, you have a very fine grid. Only one small feature may be there, like 1% of the domain has very fine mesh, everything else has very coarse mesh. But for taking that 1% fine mesh, delta t has to be reduced by 100,000. What happened? Tell me.
Your voice was breaking.
Internet connection is poor. Okay, I will repeat my point. What I am saying is that still internet connection is poor, it seems. So please ask me a question if you don't understand this. You have a geometry where most of the domain has very coarse mesh, but only a small fraction of the domain. So let me give you a very good example of this type of thing. What can happen? Okay. So we have still time left. So let this be the case. Okay. Let this be a What is this? What have I clicked? See, you have a domain like this. Diagram will not be accurate. You have to bear with me. Very large domain. Okay, square rectangular domain. And near here, this is actually a practical problem. Many people solve, like say Dr. Venugopal students have solved this type of problems in their project. There is a jet, okay, air jet, air inlet is there, and some airflow comes in from this direction. This is open. Some airflow comes in from this direction. It goes out from the other direction. So there is a jet impingement on this flow, okay, from a small location. So what will be the grid pattern? You need very fine grid in this region, okay, typically. Very fine grid will be required in this region, but far away, so all these other regions, I can take quite, what is this? I can take quite coarse grid, okay. I can take quite coarse grid in these regions. So like this, because not much change is occurring there, but still I have to solve the equation there. Okay, so I will take like this to get the idea. But here I need very fine grid. So say only 1% of the domain has very fine grid, rest of it has very coarse grid. So here say the grid size is delta x equal to 1 millimeter. Here it is delta x equal to 10 millimeter. So because the delta x here is 1 millimeter, 10 times smaller than here, the time step needs to be 100 times smaller for the entire domain, because you cannot have variable time step for the entire domain. So time step has to be 100 times smaller for all the points. So you can imagine that your program will run 100 times slower now, just because one small region has complex geometry. Okay. So this type of problems does not arise in the implicit scheme. Okay, this type of problems does not arise in the implicit scheme, because you can take large delta t in the implicit scheme. So you can tackle complex if the geometry is complex, 0.7 as I've written there. If the geometry is complex, there may be some region which needs fine grid spacing to resolve the details. In this case, implicit scheme is better. So in many cases, implicit scheme is better. Okay, so we will take a break here, and some small other points are there. Just I will just outline what is error propagation and stability, and we will finish our part today. Okay, I will take a 5 minutes break and I will join, and half an hour, less than half an hour, 20 minutes are left. So we will finish this. Okay. Any questions of what we have discussed till now? Otherwise, just think about if you have any questions. I will come back after 5 minutes. So I'm back. Any questions? Can you hear me still?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I have a question for you now because you are not asking any question. Say for this, where do we? This one. This is a tridiagonal matrix, right? What we have done for it, we have said that for any implicit scheme, whether it's a Crank-Nicolson or fully implicit or a general implicit scheme, we'll get this type of equation, which involves a tridiagonal matrix. So when will this, can you tell about a case when instead of tridiagonal, this matrix will be pentadiagonal? When can that happen? In what form of discretization can we get a pentadiagonal matrix? Means 5 rows are there.
If the degree.
If the, I could not hear. You are going in the correct line, but
So fifth order differential equations might give.
we don't have fifth order. We have PD to second order PD itself. Our equation is second order PD like this. Same equation. We are trying to solve the same equation. This second order PD. But we get pentadiagonal matrix. Okay.
No, no,
using some
when the
more
spacing
number
between
of points
the
in consideration.
number of points in consideration will
Neighboring
increase
points.
to 5.
Yes, so if we have a higher order discretization for this space, fourth order error, now we have second order accurate scheme. Instead, if we need a fourth order accurate scheme, we will need 5 points, means 4 neighboring points for each grid point. Okay, so in that case, you will have 5 points and pentadiagonal matrix. So higher order accuracy, for higher order accuracy, the number of points will increase and your complexity of the matrix will keep on increasing. It need not be tridiagonal. That is my main point. Okay. So higher order accuracy in the marching direction also higher order accuracy can be there. Okay. Instead of first order, it can be second order. And the marching scheme has to be changed in that case. Means Tik plus 1 can depend on both Tik and Tik minus 1. Accordingly, you have to develop a scheme. But both these values will be known from previous iteration and you will get the k plus 1 value. Okay, all this will go into the known pool. So the scheme will not differ too much. Anyway, let us come back to our discussion here. So I have already noted briefly that what will happen in explicit scheme, if the delta t we do not take suitable delta t, that there is a chance that the solution will not converge, means it will diverge, it will go away from the correct solution. This is known as unstable solution. Okay, and this happens when the errors grow with time. Okay, so for each time step, the errors are increasing from the previous time step. If this keeps on going, ultimately the errors will blow up. Errors will blow up and it will become infinite. The values will become infinite, and this happens very rapidly. Means you can see that suddenly the things are increasing very rapidly, and you get infinite values of temperature or something like that. Okay, very easy to show also. So this is known as unstable scheme. So when the errors do not grow, we call them as stable scheme. Okay, and errors are propagated from one marching step to next one. So I will quickly outline what are the sources of error, and we will not go into actual error analysis using Fourier series, which we will not, which is beyond the scope of this course, but just give you an idea about the different types of error and how how this error increases actually, how it can be, how you can decide whether the error is increasing or not, what is the equation for error. Okay, but we will not actually solve these equations. So there are two sources of errors in a numerical solution. We have already discussed, but at this also you should know by this point what are the sources of error. One is due to the truncation, discretization error. This is known as discretization error. This happens due to truncation, right? So right now we were saying, right, that we can take more points. So for fourth order accurate scheme, we can take more points. If we take more points, the time required for solution will increase, but the order of accuracy will be fourth order. Means the error, maximum error term is fourth order term, delta x to the power 4. And since these delta x values are small, relative delta x values compared to the domain size are small, the delta x to the power 4 is smaller, okay, as compared to delta x square. So the truncation error is less. So truncation error depends on your discretization scheme and is present for both implicit and explicit scheme. It depends on the discretization scheme. So you can decide what should be the truncation error. It is up to you. You cannot make it 0 because you cannot take infinite number of terms. It can only become 0 if you take either infinite number of terms or delta x equal to, means delta x tends to 0, delta t tends to 0. So which are not possible in a real life scenario. So to reduce truncation error or discretization error, there are three ways. Either you take a higher order scheme with more number of points, or you take less value of delta x and delta t. Two types, means less value of delta x, delta t, or higher order scheme. The second source of error is known as round off error. Okay, round off error is what error? It is due to the machine precision. Okay, or your system cannot calculate beyond a finite precision. It cannot calculate a number up to a infinite number of places. Okay, so if I write 1.00000, say 100, 0 and 1, machine will just take it as, machine means computer, it as 1.0. Okay, because 1.101 it cannot calculate up to that accuracy. It depends on machine to machine and program to program. Typically, it is of the order of 10 to the power minus 16. I might have shown you in MATLAB this case. Machine epsilon. What is the minimum value that this system can take? Okay, of the order of 10 to the power minus 16. So, what happens if you have a number? So you can see the machine epsilon by typing EPS. So 2.2 into 10 to the power minus 16. This is the machine precision. Okay. So numbers below this number cannot be resolved. Means you can resolve a number below this, but differences below this difference cannot be resolved. So if I have a number a is equal to 1 and b is equal to 1 plus s by 2. So b should be different from a, but b minus a will give me 0. Okay, because it cannot resolve the difference. But if I take b is equal to a plus EPS, then it can resolve this difference. Okay, then b minus a, if I write, it can still find that b and a are different. Okay, so below this number it cannot resolve. Please switch off your mic. Please switch off your mic. So please switch off your mic. So what happens due to this? Any numbers in each calculation gets rounded off by the machine. Okay, at the 16 digit for our case. Depending on the precision, you may take real numbers instead of double precision. It's for double precision, it's 10 to the minus 16. For real numbers, if you use just real numbers, precision is 10 to the power minus 8. So it gets rounded off at the 10 to the power minus 8 level. Now imagine same calculation going on millions of times. You are calculating for millions of grid points again and again. So in each case, small and small round of errors are occurring, and these errors may get accumulated over time and result in large error, okay, which can significantly deviate the final solution. Okay, so this error, the propagation of error that occurs is because of this round of error. Okay, in a time step. So from one time step to the other time step, the chances of error increases in an explicit scheme because of this round of error. That's why we need less values of delta t to reduce the round of error in each time step. Okay, so let us take a look at an example. Without going into too much details, I will just finish with this example. Let us consider a particular case, that same case which we have already taken. Del t is equal to alpha del square t del t square. Okay, and we have used the explicit scheme again. Let us use the explicit scheme. So using explicit scheme, you can discretize this as tik plus 1 minus tik by delta t equal to alpha by delta x square Ti plus 1k minus 2 Tik plus Ti minus 1k. So all known factors in the right hand side and only unknown is Tik k plus 1. Okay, this is the explicit scheme. Now let A be the analytical solution for the PDE. Okay. What do we mean by the analytical solution? It is the exact solution of the PDE. This is the PDE, second order PDE. This is wrongly written. This is del x square. Okay. Please correct this also in your note. Del x square. Okay, this is wrongly written. So for this equation, one dimensional transient equation, conduction equation, the exact analytical solution of the PDE, let us denote by A, means the temperature value at a certain point by solving the analytical equation is the exact solution, correct solution. Let this be A. Okay. Now we will discretize it. We can discretize this using different forms like this explicit form. Okay. This is our explicit form where the temporal scheme is first order accurate and the spatial scheme is second order accurate. We could have gone for a second order accurate scheme in the temporal, fourth order accurate scheme in the spatial direction also. Okay. But whatever, we can derive infinite number of finite difference equation. This is the finite difference equation. Remember, this is the PD differential equation. This is a difference equation. There is a difference between these two names: differential equation, difference equation. This is a difference equation. Okay. Let the exact solution of the difference equation. This difference equation also has an exact solution. Okay. Let this be equal to D. What is the difference between the exact solution of the difference equation and the exact solution of the PD? Anyone? What is the difference between the exact solution of the PD and the exact solution of the, what is A minus D? Exact solution of the difference equation. Means if I can solve the exact correctly this equation, I will get the exact solution of the difference equation. Okay. So how will still it will be different from the analytical solution. So what will be the difference? Any answer? This you should be able to tell. How we have changed while deriving the difference equation, what approximation we have taken, which has caused this to differ from the analytical solution. Because we have replaced the derivatives by some approximations, right? What approximations we have taken? Yes?
So by Taylor series, we have reduced some of the terms, right?
Truncation error.
We have removed the terms. We have removed the higher order terms. So truncation error. So the difference between analytical solution and exact solution, yes, it is equal to the truncation error. Okay. So the difference between the analytical solution, truncation error means total accumulation of truncation error for all the terms. Okay. It is equal to the truncation error. However, if you solve this equation using a real computer with a finite accuracy, you will not get the exact solution of the difference equation. Okay, you will not get the value of temperature equal to D. You will get some other value which is slightly different. Okay, this is called as the numerical solution, the actual value that you will see when you write a program and run the program, you will get some value of temperature. This temperature we are going to call as numerical solution, this actual value. Okay, this is different from dy because your computer has a finite precision, finite accuracy, and because of round of errors, accumulation of round of errors, n has become different from d. Okay, so the difference between n and d is accumulation of round of errors. Okay, So n is the solution that you get. Okay. So the actual solution differs from the exact solution in terms of the truncation error plus round off error. Okay. So these are the three types of solutions. So because the program is written to solve the difference equation, your program you have written to solve the difference equation. This is the difference equation. You have written the program to solve the difference equation. So the final solution that you will get will satisfy this difference equation, because until that your program will run. Once you can satisfy this equation, your program will stop. Okay. So n is the solution of this equation. Okay. Nik plus 1 minus Nik by delta t equal to alpha by delta x square minus 2 Nik plus Ni minus 1 k. This is the same thing. I have replaced t by n. Okay, here. So n is a solution. Why n is a solution of the n? Why it will satisfy the difference equation? Because your program is written in such a way. Okay, it has errors. It is different from d, but it will satisfy the solution. Okay, I will come to this part later. But let me also explain that because d is the exact solution of the difference equation, d will also satisfy the equation, because d is also a solution of d is the exact solution. So I can also write dik plus 1 minus dik by delta t equal to alpha by delta x square di plus 1k minus 2 dik plus di minus 1k. So this will also satisfy the equation. Okay. Now let n equal to d plus some error epsilon. Okay. Where epsilon is the round off error. So replacing n by d plus epsilon, I can write this equation as each of the term you replace the n by d plus epsilon. Dik plus 1 plus epsilon ik plus 1 minus dik minus epsilon ik. Like this for you do for the entire equation. Okay. So you get one equation which have the exact solution of the difference equation d and the error terms. Okay, error term for different grid points and different time steps. And you have second equation, which is the exact solution, which contains only the exact solution values at different points and time steps. Okay, so from 1 and 2, if you subtract 2 from 1, you get an equation which only has the error terms. Okay, similar to the discretized equation of temperature, it has the terms epsilon I k plus 1 minus epsilon I k is equal to alpha delta x square epsilon I plus 1 k minus 2 epsilon I k plus epsilon I minus 1 k. Okay. Or you can write it in a different way by taking all the k terms to one side. So epsilon I k plus 1 is equal to epsilon I k plus alpha delta t by delta x square within bracket this term epsilon I plus 1 k minus 2 epsilon I k plus epsilon I minus 1 k. Okay. This is the equation for error propagation. Means this gives us a relation. If we know what is the error in the kth time step for each grid point. Okay, if we know what is the error, this will be I. Okay, this will be I. If we know what is the error at each grid point in the kth time step, we can find out what will be the error in the k plus 1 at time step. Okay, you cannot solve this directly from here. You need to do some Fourier series analysis. But this relation actually gives us some relation between how the error propagates, and you can see that there is some relation between the error propagation somehow relates to instead of going into complex maths also, we can just see that it depends somehow on alpha delta t by delta x square. Okay, in some form. This discretization scheme and the solution is stable if when it will be stable? When the error does not increase with time step. When the error does not increase, that is our definition, right? We have defined that if the errors do not grow with time, it will be a stable scheme. Okay. So what will be the definition of stable scheme? Epsilon ik plus 1 divided by epsilon ik is less than equal to 1. It means that for the same grid point, the new error is less than the previous error. It is not growing, it is decreasing. Okay. If this condition is satisfied, we will still say that the solution is stable. Okay. So we have to find this condition based on this equation that can be done based on stability analysis using Fourier series. I will not go into details beyond the scope of this course. But what I will say is that we can show that this epsilon I k plus 1 by epsilon I k is less than equal to 1 if alpha delta t by delta x square is less than equal to half. Okay, it can be shown that this is the case. Okay, as you can see here now, if delta x becomes smaller, so instead of say delta x equal to 1, if you take delta x equal to 0.1, you have to reduce the delta t by the square value. Okay, so if the previous delta t was 1, now you have to make it 0.01. Okay, so delta t is proportional to delta x square. Okay, so therefore there is an upper limit on delta t for the explicit scheme which varies as delta t proportional to delta x square. Okay, so as a result, for a very refined grid, we need a very refined time step. It becomes more and more difficult to use explicit scheme for a refined grid, because otherwise, if we do not satisfy this condition, there is a chance that the errors will propagate with time and your solution will blow up. Okay, so we'll stop here. I will take the attendance. So this is up to this is your syllabus for the first midterm, for this midterm. We have a lot of material to cover after the midterm, so we'll see whether we need to take extra classes or not. We will start finite volume method from the first class after the midterm. Okay, so next Friday is holiday, and next Tuesday also is exam gap, means exam related holiday, because exam is starting from Wednesday. So all the best for your exam. Please don't leave yet because I have to take the attendance. Any questions? Meanwhile, you can ask.
Hello.
Let me just check
Hello.
if I can show you an example of. Yes. Tell me.
Sir, is the round off error same if we use any commercial software or MATLAB?
Round of error is always there. Round of error is, you cannot calculate what is the exact round of error. It is calculated as a noise. Okay, round of error is actually similar to somewhat like analysis is done based on noise type of situation. So you cannot means you don't know in each type step what will be the exact change due to round of error. Say in some time step you get a value of the last digit is points is 7, so it gets rounded off to 0. In another calculation the last digit is 6, it also gets rounded off to 0. Okay, so each time the change is different, so it's like a random change that is occurring. Okay, so you cannot say what will be the change, but the round of error is present in any commercial package, any MATLAB, any tool, any Fortran C, any program. It is dependent on your, if you are solving using a computer, it has to be there. You cannot avoid this because ultimately it has to be solved up to a certain precision. Okay, so you might see something like double precision, single precision. So by using double precision, you can reduce the round of error, but still round of error will always be there. Okay, and your solution will blow up even if you have, switch off your mic, even if you have even in ANSYS also you will see that sometimes the result is not converging, result is diverging. How will you see that? You have something called residuals there. The residuals are not decreasing, residuals are increasing with time.
Sir, you are not
The case
audible.
where there will be some round of error. I am not audible now. Audible? Hello. Hello.
Yes,
Yes, sir,
sir.
you are audible
Now
now.
you're audible.
Yes, sir, audible, sir.
Okay. Let me some practical examples so that you can see actually what happens. Let me think about a case when this happens. When the blow up happens. Let me think about a case. Pure diffusion. Okay, maybe this case. This case will be there. I'm not prepared, so I don't know. Let me check. This may be too large. Okay. What can be an example? Okay, let us try this itself. Quickly, I will show you one case of this errors blow up. This is a Fortran program from my old project, which is the explicit implicit scheme. Means somebody is solved using implicit scheme and energy equation is solved using explicit scheme. Because the explicit scheme is there, although there is implicit part, but I have to keep the time step limited to the explicit scheme. Okay, so say I have one time step one non-dimensional one form, one is the time step. Okay, if I run this solution now, you will see that solution should run smoothly. Means I can see from each of the iterations. I hope you can still see my screen. Okay, it is running too fast. Del U del V, it does not show me the temperature. I cannot show the blow up from here. Can I show from the some of the new work? Let us see. Let us see. Okay, meanwhile, we will take the attendance. Okay, it shows the values. Okay, some value of no, I cannot show it here. Okay, I will show in some next class. Okay, I cannot show it, but it looks very nice. Suddenly, you will see temperature goes to infinity in a few time steps. Let me just take the attendance. I have another meeting after this. So, I didn't. Students, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Hear
sir.
me?
Yes,
Connect.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Examples. Okay, so